going to know him better. He is an architect and professor at Università Mediterranea di Reggio Calabria and University of Pennsylvania. He also is founder of a spin-off society from the Università of Reggio Calabria called APS, and he works in several organizations. He's also author of several books and articles on international and national magazines. Just to give you a brief overview, his last work is The City of Imagination, which is a selected collection of 150 drawings, thoughts, and images, collecting during several years that are representing and translating and compounding ideas and thoughts about the city, starting from the traces and from the inspiration he gets. So it's also something cultural, multicultural product of his research. And in the last months, he was selected as a fellow member of the American Academy in Rome, where he also participated in the final exhibition. And I think that probably he will show us some of this work too. So I give the floor to Valerio Morabito and enjoy the lecture.
So thanks a lot, Julia. I will remember that Sarah is not here, so I will delete her as friends. Okay, we have from 2 p.m., 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have almost 7 hours before the dinner, so enjoy this time. No, okay. I don't want to say that I decided this title after yesterday, but I think this title is quite good. Because starting over from 3 points or from 3, and one is design, one is drawing, and one is ideas. I will not explain the projects, so I will present 4 projects from 4 realized projects for design, drawing, where I will present what I did during my fellowship at the American Academy in Rome. And the last one is a competition we did in Spain, I think 1 year ago, and we won some award, but anyway. So I will not explain very well the projects. But please follow me to try to enter into this project, and then if you want, you can ask me something, and I will try to explain better what I did. So, design. This is a garden we realized in China during the COVID period in Yangzhou. And it is a garden about 10 cities from the Nuovo Circondario Imolese. So there are 10 cities, small villages in Reggio Emilia. And we had to design this garden representing these 10 cities in China, and what we tried, we never saw the site. It was impossible to go to China to follow the construction of the garden. It was impossible to visit the garden because China was closed. So these are, and I received some pictures from China. And so anyway, this was the International Horticultural Exposition in Yangzhou 2021. In China, they Green City, Healthy Life. And this is the master plan. So they did the master plan for this exhibition. And our project is somewhere here, probably a little piece of this. So they invited many, many different designers to do this, and cities to do this, this garden. This was the site we selected, P10. I like it. And I started just to draw on my iPad. I wanted to divide, so in China, the traditional Chinese gardens are beautiful because they divide the space, and a small space can be big, very huge, because they divide the gardens in many, many little different spaces. So I decided to divide this garden in many different gardens. So we have 4 gardens, and then these gardens are divided in many smaller gardens, and these gardens represent the 10 cities. But we go. So this is the master plan with 2 pavilions, 1 and 2, the entrance, the exit. One of the most important thing was to make these walls to create the spaces of the small gardens. And these walls were walls, we call them ecological walls, because we have 2 steel heads here and here. And then we used this wall of bamboo in the traditional of Chinese many cities, gardens, and so on. So this is the garden. And you see here are some sculptures representing the cities around Bologna. So in the reality, this is just a zoom. So I tried to collect the photos. I never visited the garden. So we enter from here, we pass from here, we see the pavilions, then we pass from here, we visit the pavilions, then we go here, we visit these gardens, and then we exit. So this is the entrance with these walls. We go inside. We pass through these walls. We enter into this kind of labyrinth. And then we have this narrow perspective. In this case, we see the pavilion and the sculptures. These sculptures represent the urban fabrics of these 10 cities. And then we get out and we see the pavilion. Then we continue with this, I think, interesting kind of walls like this. We walk inside of this garden. We see some secret spaces. We wander inside, and then we reach the pavilions place. And so this is the bigger pavilion, and from this pavilion you can see all the gardens around. We put the pond just in the center of the garden. That is in relationship of the Chinese traditional gardens. I visited many Chinese traditional gardens. So this is the complexity we have next to the pavilions, and then when we change the perspective, we can open the space of the garden. And this is the smaller pavilion. And this is the big pavilions with this wall, with the structures coming from the ecological walls. It is a detail I stole from a Chinese garden. And we continue to walk the sculptures, the walls. I like this idea of having this bamboo giving a kind of life at the walls, sculptures and pavilion. Again, this kind of labyrinth, the sculpture. And then we get out from this wall with this shape that it comes from, again, the traditional Chinese garden. So we won a very important award. I like this incredible, beautiful things the Chinese do. Chengdu Waterfront Pavilion. We are in Chengdu. I had a conference in Chengdu, and this conference was at the Landscape Institute in Chengdu. And then they asked me to work with them for a waterfront, especially for a pavilion. This is the pavilion they wanted to destroy, they wanted to replace, they wanted to remove and do it again. But it was beautiful because we see these people dancing, especially women dancing under the pavilion. And this is during the day. I said, maybe we can keep the pavilion. It is not necessary to destroy it. I like to reuse things without destroying. Sometimes, my friend Pedro, sometimes it is necessary to destroy something. In this case, I said, maybe we can have an idea. So I did some sketch thinking about the dancing. So I said, if we add something inside of the pavilions to give to these pavilions a kind of dancing moving, no? So I drew this new pavilion. So this is a new pavilion inside of the old pavilion. So we decided to do this structure here. So the pavilion was there. So this is the pavilion. And then we added this structure and we gave to this pavilion totally new meaning, a totally new shape. Or this is my opinion. And in a way, this big roof, this big cover, lost heaviness. So people will dance, the structure is very complex, and compete with the old one, not compete, but improve in a way. Some details, the pavilion. So you see how it seems that this cover is flying over this new structure. And this is during the night. I like the pavilion because it is a kind of Chinese new pavilion, but it is not. So we are in United States performing landscape. Professor John Dixon Hunt asked me to do this installation, landscape installation. I call it performing landscape because the installation was just in front of this theater. This theater was built by Olmsted's son, but Professor John Dixon Hunt said he wasn't so good like the father. So that was funny. So the installation, I did the very complex project. It was beautiful and so on and so on. But then they didn't have enough money. This is the sign. The installation will be placed here in this stage. So it was very simple. So one line, another line, a rectangle. So these are some sketch. I wanted to create trees, real, artificial trees, real trees. So these are many different drawings I did during the, and this is the rendering. So you can see the fake trees, the stones from the landscape around, and the big trees here. So this is the final installation just at the beginning. So you can see where it is. And how then people could use this installation being part of the installation itself. So everything was made by internet, so I never been there. I didn't follow the construction of this installation. I think the scale is a little bit wrong, but I like this idea to put together artificial landscape, real landscape, and people can use this installation to play with it. Hmm? Too big. And so this is the last image of this installation. This is a garden in Sicily, so China, United States, Sicily. This is the last project I will show you. The garden is called a terre forti, strong earth, because the earth is very strong. We are here, and we are here, and we have the volcano, the Etna here. See, and our project is here. So I like to combine paintings to design. And so this is the gate of the garden. Okay, so you see here the volcano, the site. It is important. So this was a garden I drew without drawing. It was impossible to imagine any solution because the site was very steep, complex, with many trees, existing trees. So it was very complex. So one day I said, okay, we go there and draw the garden into the site. So we went there without any technological tool. Just we used this tape and these steel poles like this. We started here. We have some existing terraces, walls, and then we started from these existing walls to redraw the entire garden. So this is another photo when so we had to decide the different levels to keep the existing trees and so on. But it was very complex and funny. This is under construction. So we did this big dry volcano stone walls. And then it is like this. So the walls created a very dynamic, the terraces created a very dynamic space in which we involved the existing trees, and then the client planted many different roses. So it is a container of many different things. So these are just some examples. It is quite big. These are some examples of these terraces. And this is we draw the plan after to do the garden, just to have a kind of idea of what it is. So we enter from here. Here there is a pergola, and then we go inside of the garden, and the garden is made by all these new terraces. And in the middle here, there is a swimming pool. So this is the gate connected with that paintings I showed you before. The entrance with this kind of abstract landscape next to the house. We arrived when they built the house, and the architect, the house is not bad, it's good, but they didn't care about the morphology of the site. So they decided to have a plane where to put the house. So to have a plane, they had to do this big concrete wall. So under this beautiful vegetation, you have a concrete wall, and the client didn't know what to do. And so we designed a kind of tool to keep the vegetation and to create the handrail on top of this big wall. So now it is like this with these big trees, and the house is here. Some details of the entrance. So this was the only concrete we used just for the path for cars. But anyway, then these are some other details. The pergola. And then there is an incredible variety of staircases dealing with the different levels, and we can have many of them. The material was just the dry stone lava, the dry lava stone, and you can see how we organized and the stone. We did this pergola next to the house, and then we go up, and we have the swimming pool. And the swimming pool is quite nice when you are into the swimming pool, because you see the sea and you have this continuity of landscape. Nothing new, but I think it is quite good to swim into this place. And this is a wood I designed. It is an ecological forest wood in which we put cork oaks and small palms. This is a typical Mediterranean landscape. And now this wood is like this after a few years. And it is funny because we played with these big walls and trees. So the place is very, very dynamic. And you see how the vegetation is colonizing all the terraces we designed. And these are small details of the walls. This is a tool to drain the water, the rainwater, and some details of the garden. And then when we were building the garden, we had the problem, because here we have the swimming pool. This is the only concrete piece of the garden. And the client wanted to have a fall. So we have this water falling down this wall. And this was 16 meters long, this panel. And client started to show me many materials to do this panel. And I said, okay, forget it. ugly, ugly, ugly. I said, can I do something? And he said, yes. In Sicily, we have this very strong tradition about ceramic tiles. So I said, I paint it, I do it. But I had a very small space with to paint this panel. So I did this pieces by pieces. And then now you see this panel into the walls. And it is nice because I decided to draw big olive trunks, and they are connected with this. Just only the trunks without the canopy, because I don't know. I have this intuition that they could be related with the vegetation we planted in the other levels. So this was when we put the panels on site. And so this is this wall with these big trunks I painted. So drawing, some publicity, advertisement. This is my book, my last book, The City of Imagination. As before, Julia said, that a collection of many different drawings, and you can have these drawings in the book. They are all drawings related to cities. Some of them are just city I imagined. And these are the collection of city I have in this book. And this was the last drawing I did to close the book. It is a collection of many other drawings I put together, and I created this kind of coastline map. But you can find drawings from Fez. This was interpretation of Fez. Water town in China. I imagine to have this. I like it. I don't know, but I really like this drawing. This was in Guangzhou. This was the interpretation of the city of Guangzhou, and this is the just imaginary city, a visionary city. And I worked for 2 years on my iPad. So it was the thing I spent 2 years to collect and to draw 100 drawings on my iPad digitally. When I went to Rome, I wanted to engage myself with the big scale of canvases. So I did this as the organization of my studio presentation in June. And so you can see the scale of the drawings. And I did many. In 3 months, I did almost 20 of these drawings. And the drawing you see on the slide is almost the real scale of the drawing.
Actually, I was thinking on that you didn't make me any comment, because I'm not going to make you a question. You can stay there, it doesn't matter. But first of all, I would like to thank you, because your it's a very generous presentation, and very presented in a very humble way that looks like everything is very easy. So it's I know that probably would be. We were joking before that I could make your presentation, but for sure a lot of times the presentations have a kind of a lack of this kind of humility with the students, with your peers, and I think it's very important, even if sometimes it's not very recognized. So I recognize it, and I like it very much, because you don't need to put in your foot, I don't know the name in English, to show your work. The second comment, I would say that it's, and I'd like to thank you for this, because I think it's very important also for the students, that you don't really need to, on this image and star system thing, that you don't need to put yourself in a position. You just need that the work speaks for yourself, and I think that's what you did. Second thing is that as you know, I'm a friend of João Nunes, that is a landscape architect, and we speak a lot about landscape. I'm not a landscape architect, I'm an architect, and then it's connected with the answer that I'm going to ask you. There is a tradition on landscape. Actually, landscape started with painters. Okay? So painting the landscape was like the beginning of the design of the landscape. You know much better this than me, and you can explain a bit to the students this. And I recognize very well in your work this approach, and I'm actually a bit surprised by this very sensitive painter approach. I asked Karim what painter you would like to be, and to you I would ask you what architect you would like to be, because you're more a painter than an architect. And the question is, for let's say this is the complexity that you should explain to the students, or at least I would like that you would explain them, is what is for you the difference between architecture and landscape architecture?
Bye. It was very nice to stay with you. I leave the. No, okay. First of all, one of the most, didn't say this, but I love one painter from China. From him, I think, from him, it became landscape, because he painted those traditional Chinese landscape paintings. He started everything during the 1000. His name is Guo Shi. Yesterday, one told me the exactly pronunciation, but he was the master. For me, he is the master. And master for me is Italo Calvino. Calvino is not a painter. Calvino is a writer. So what helped me to have this very important reference, not coming from architecture or landscape architecture, is that I really take care about the site. I don't impose the site. We can have so many ideas, and we can deal with the site in so many different things. Consistency among all the process, for me, is the most important thing. What I think, you said what I think about landscape architecture and architecture. That is an important question. That is a very important question. I am an architect. I am not a landscape architect. I started PhD in landscape architecture, and I did this book in which I tried to prove that we recognize a kind of landscape, modern landscape, because abstract painters showed us many forms that now can be recognized into the landscape. Not the landscape we draw, not the landscape we design, but the landscape we can see from above, from the agricultural fields and so on. All these things were painted and developed and exposed by many different abstract painters like Klee, Pollock, Cy Twombly, but more Rothko, so all these things. So I really don't know which is the difference between architecture and landscape architecture. I can say that many schools focus more energy in ecology, more school in landscape architecture focus their energy in ecology, New Green Deal, especially in the last period. So they try to solve the problem of our planet, making some research or studio related specifically with ecology or resilience or sustainability. I am the one who thinks that the landscape is start from the design because I am an architect. I need to design. And when I think design is to find a shape for our problem. That is very stupid as an answer, but I think we need to have shapes to create the meaning and the identity of a place. If we speak about ecology in a general way or sustainability in general way, we don't say anything. Because an ecologist is better than me to make a forest. For example, we are working about forest. An ecologist is much better than me to think how to develop a forest. An engineer is much better than me to think about how to deal with water. But what we can do with these things is to give to these things a precise identity through shapes. And when you have a precise idea of shape of what you want to do, that is the connection between architecture and landscape architecture. I am not saying that I prefer one geometry to another one. Someone use, for example, Karim used these beautiful lines into the landscape as a way to deal with the landscape. At the same time, he is able to connect this very abstract line into the landscape. There is someone using more organic. What? Why he suggested me organic and not you? You are my tutor. So
So first of all, I want to thank you for your presentation and for sharing with you as your personal intervention and your personal perception. Um, what I want to say, and I think that I know Mr. Morabito more than every student here because I was an Erasmus student in Reggio di Calabria and he was my professor. So I would like to say that I really appreciate his approach because while solving, but I can talk like, okay, it's okay. Okay. Yeah. Uh, I said that I appreciate his approach in addressing problems in our project. He doesn't focus on one strategy to address the problem, but there are various strategies. Sometimes we start from the side and then we can see the solution. Sometimes we do the opposite. So we are not just stuck in one strategy, which is really generous and creative. And secondly, I see that the drawings are really beautiful. What I mean by beautiful is that when I see the drawings, I feel something. This is what means beautiful. It's not like I can pass by his drawings, but I feel that I feel something, and I can spend much time looking at the drawings and having questions and interpreting them. And every time it's like it's the first time because some of the drawings I have already seen them and I still keep looking at them, stating them. About landscape architecture and architecture, I want to share my point of view about this because in architecture I see that there is an intervention of human beings, so it can be some intervention that is new to the site. But in landscape architecture, we can start from the site to find the response or to find the solution. So the site can give us the solution, but we can add something as architects that will bring out or that will reveal the potential of the site. So we can add to make it perfect, to make it clear what the site has. But in architecture, we just focus on the project that we want and in the relationship with the site. This is my point of view about it. Thank you.
Question?
Sorry, I will be extremely quick. I just wanted to add something to what she said. What's your name? So the thing is that, yeah. Oh, no, I agree with her. I completely agree. The thing is that I just wanted to stress again on the fact of how much important was the lecture that you gave us today in terms of the importance that you gave to precision and to specificity, which is always extremely visible in your drawings. And also borrowing some words from Pedro, I think that places can speak for themselves, but just sometimes we do not recognize this speech. And we as architects and landscape architects, we need to be careful about this, and we need to understand what places. Yeah, it's okay. Sometimes it's much easier to try and apply a formula instead of just trying and getting into the complexity. And you showed us how much important it is to draw the drawing into as a way to get into this complexity and as a way of understanding this complexity, and then of course as a way of acting as designers.
Is it working? Yes. So thank you again for the presentation. I am actually from Fez, I do a lot of painting, and I would be really interested in knowing the poetry behind the work that you did on Fez fountains. If possible, some clarifications, and yes, that's it. I would really enjoy it.
So Fez is a city I love. I love many cities around like girls. I love a lot of girls. A platonic, in platonic way. So just the idea, not just. But I tried many times to draw Fez in terms of the incredible dynamic spatial spaces that the city has. So the volumes coming out, the narrow streets, this idea of wandering inside of, and it was impossible for me. It was absolutely impossible. So I said I would like to draw about the ornament. And the ornament is a general thing in Morocco and many other cultures. But still, when I tried to draw the traditional Moroccan ornament, it was impossible. You are much better than the others. Like in China, they are much better in making their ornaments and so on and so on. So I invented my fountains. I invented my ornament. I invented the space of Fez. I invented everything. But these inventions are not free inventions. They were guided by what I know from Fez. And the way to draw in this with this process is important because you really can understand how to deal with the site. Because the site is something, when you do a project, you have to modify the site. It is not possible to say, okay, I like the site like it is, I don't want to do anything. Wrong. You have to do it because otherwise clients don't pay you. So you have to modify the site. And when you draw, when you learn how to keep the idea, not the identity or not the tradition of a site, this is very important for me. Kind of dynamic
Switching,
microphones. I don't speak about identity. I don't like the word identity. It is too ambiguous. It is full of, you can have very strong identity, good and bad. So I don't think about identity or tradition. I speak about ideas. A site has an idea. Ideas can be developed. Traditions and identity, sometimes it is not easy to change or to develop, but ideas can be changed. We are almost ready to change our ideas if we have a kind of good background or just the human being changed ideas to develop to be better and so on. So with these drawings, I am able to understand the ideas of places. And the ideas will not follow the exactly real conditions. I never draw in front of something. Forbidden for me. I am not good in drawing in front of something. My hand is not able to do perfect proportions and so on and so on. So I draw after days or sometimes years, because the idea of sight comes to me, and when it comes to me, I draw it. But this is an exercise. This is not a kind of particular genius we have. It is an exercise. I really think, I really love the idea of exercise. To learn, no? Practice, exercises. I love.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to add something to what Asma and he said about architecture and landscape architecture. I feel like they both kind of offer an experience. Maybe if architecture offers an experience which is somewhat inside, landscape architecture is something that would give you the opportunity to give an experience outside and links it to the inside as well. So that's why they are connecting in a way. And I also wanted to add that I really love the idea of the nodes, even if it sounds little and small and maybe not that important. But for people visiting the site in the future, it will have some significance to it, and that will give the space kind of like not an identity as you said, because it's very vague, but it will give it like something unique, something that belongs to that site. And in order to get to that point, we have to start with design, as you mentioned. So it's like it all comes like in full circle, and we can't really make the distinction between like architecture, landscape architecture, design. They all kind of work together to create a project that will be able to be pleasant for people to visit and to remember. That's why I said experience. It will give them something that they will remember eventually. Thank you.
But the microphone doesn't work. No, it works. So the about site, I am trying to write the text, and the title of this text is remotely genius loci. Do you know what is genius loci? Genius loci is an Italian invention, I think, or something. The spirit of the place, the idea of the place, genius loci, and I am trying to write this article, remotely genius loci. What it means, and you will see. You will do many projects in your life without visiting a site. You will see competition. The garden we did in China, for me, it was just something. The site itself didn't have any genius logic, any idea. It was just a plot in this big new master plan that Chinese built in 2 weeks, because they are very nice. They have an idea, 2 weeks done. Beautiful. So what it means to deal with the site without visiting a site. And today, the big companies, how many competition they do everywhere in the world. No, we were talking with Pedro about time and architecture. So they have the USA company have a project in China or in Morocco, in Europe, and they do the competition without visiting the site. And so they collect many data. trying to understand what the site is. So population, richness, environment, things, information, weather, water, ecology. But this is not the genius of science. This is something else. So you have to build a genius of the logic. When you don't visit a site, you have to be ready to build your genius of site. How to do this is because you know many things. You are you read books, you read poems. You don't see just only projects. That is the important thing for me. Contamination. If you just see projects made by this, made by that, students of mine ask me, Professor, can we have a reference for what we are doing? I say, reference? What is this word? See, Guo Xi, this beautiful, this fantastic Chinese painter. So it is important to exercise with drawings, but still with how to build our genius logic. And many times in Italy, we talked about genius logic. No? Michelangelo, the famous artist, there is this legend, I don't know if it is true or not. He saw this big piece of marble and he said, I see the David. I have to take off just only the material and then to reveal the David. If it is this, I can do another David. Or this horrible, my tutor. But it is not true. Because when we deal with the site, when we deal with the genius of the site, we deal with the genius of the site and with our genius. And when we are able to combine very well the two things, you have a good project. But if you have a strong genius logic, and then you have a weak designer, the project will not be so good. If you have a very strong designer who wants to impose his design into the site, sometimes the project is just, yeah, okay, they took photos, published them into magazines and so on. But then when you go and visit the site, there's nothing. But I really like when the two things start talking together and having a discussion, and at the end of discussion, you have a consistency between you and the site. And you can build this. No, you are dangerous with
Thank you, Valerio, for the microphone. I have a small comment, actually, because you were talking about form, but I think also that in your, both in what you said otherwise and in what you show, you are also interested about what is not a form. It's enough to look at this image and other projects you showed that actually you have left nature alone. You have left it alone, not in the sense that you have abandoned it, but that you have left it to live. And then when you put a form in contradiction while leaving a lot of space empty, it can work. But if you are le nôtre, you know, who is redrawing all of the perspective from Versailles all the way to I don't know where, we are far from this time. You know, it's been several hundred years now that we don't draw the whole landscape. So I think you are at a place where you are drawing very strong moments that are reverberating onto many onto much more, but while leaving a lot of space to be by itself. Like, again, this image is for me a very big, clear proof that in as much as you are forceful in your expression, in your talk as well, actually the image actually has left maybe 80% alone, so that a moment of high intensity could happen, and that actually, obviously, without it, it would look different, but with it, it gives sense to the space, not just to the point.
Yes. No. Yes. That is a good comment, because I have a rule I usually share with my students, especially with my students. When we have a site, I ask them to design the 30% of the site, and they have to keep the landscape that doesn't have an idea. So they have to leave the 80% in a good condition, and just they have to work in the other 30% to create a good balance. And sometimes when we don't have a good site, what we do is to design the 30% and then to create big piece of forest or ecological landscape with water or something like this. But the design is, in my opinion, is around 30%. The rest is the landscape itself. No. Me la sono cercata, vero?
Good afternoon. I have 3 questions, but only 2. I'm an urban planner, not a landscape architect. I want to underline this for the 2 questions. First of all, you show wonderful draw. In my mind, for your project that you are doing in the summer school with the students, the problem is individual draw and collective draw. How can you help or to give suggestion to the students to put this quality of the draw in a collective draw? Because the problem of the classroom is working together because it's solipsistic draw. In my mind, I don't know. Second questions, ideas. The first question is related to what you call draw. Then the other question is related to ideas. The general impression in your description and draw, it's that your design is more related with the leisure time. I'm sure that is not true, but what appears is only when you have time to do what you wanted to do, the ozio time, we need this kind of space. I think it's not true, but the first impression is this. Please, how you can work, or your proposal work in the daily life, the daily routines, when I go to work, when I go to study, when I go to the station, how these tools for design works in the daily life, because I'm sure that because sometimes appears in some writings and so on, but please, can you stress a little bit what this can become a space in which we can walk or work or do the daily life for the better daily life? Thank you very much.
Okay, I answered to the second question, and then I will show you a diagram. Thanks for the first, because I love to do these diagrams. Can we rise the screen? So that's true. But for example, in the it doesn't work. But, no, so the for example, for the Chengdu Pavilion, there's a space for daily life. People go there dancing. The problem of this pavilion was that the ugliness of the pavilion itself. But when I saw these pavilions with these people under the pavilions enjoying the space, they don't care about the quality of the design. No, they don't care to have another incredible new big pavilion. No, they use the space. There's the space itself that is part of the daily life. So when they wanted to destroy the pavilions, when they say the architect, we can, professor, can we think a new pavilion? I say, but it works. The pavilion is there. The idea of the space is there. So what I thought was, okay, we can put some decoration. I said, we can do a decoration. We can joy with something, adding a kind of color or something like this. And I wanted to do this not touching the existing pavilion because it was the idea of daily life. I decided to add this kind of sculptures, exoskeleton, or something like this, because the idea of the place, the idea of function, the idea to use that place was there. Young and old women every night go there. This is fantastic in China. You go and during the night, you see people dancing in the public spaces. That's fantastic, beautiful. Also in the afternoon, beautiful. That is something I love from China. I love many things from China, but this is the food is really good. So sometimes you have to add more identity of leisure or daily life. I agree with you. We did other projects, but I don't know. So I try to, when I have the opportunity, try not to destroy the idea of daily life, because I love to have a place where people can recognize without big changing. It was funny because we worked for these pavilions for a while together, sending them. Then Chinese disappeared. And then I received a picture of the pavilions done. So it is, no, these are Chinese stories. About the first one, the first question. Thanks a lot, because I love to do this. Sure. I have a collection of, so I was in Oldenburg. So the first part is not from me. I was in Oldenburg, part of Germany. And the dean of the School of Architecture in Oldenburg said, he showed the two diagrams, no? And he said, if we have 2 points, usually Germans, to solve the problem, pass from point A to point B, they go like that. Whoa. They don't care about anything. So then he added, I didn't add this, he added, if Chinese want to solve the problem as from point A to point B, they do like this. And he left me with this question. And Italians, so I had the lecture the day after. I said, so no, before the Italian way, I presented these diagrams in Milan a few months ago, and the professor from Prague, he said the method of Czech people is to start from point A to go to point B. They start from point A and they go back to point A. It was fantastic. He was the professor from the Yes, please. I am collecting the. I think it is very close to Italian, to the Italian. So very close. So now, wait. The American one. 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 They start with millions of points. So they start a lot of parallel research without integration, nothing, iteration. So going like this, and then sometimes happen they solve the Portuguese. Italian. We start from another point. We go around, and we arrive to another point. That is the Italian way. So as you see, all of you start from a point, A, B, C, or so. Italians, they don't care. They start from another point, and they arrive to another point. So my interpretation, and I arrive to your question, I love to start with my students with point A to leave them to do what they want. So I saw them wandering. And there is one point in which I pick all of them, I put on my shoulder, and we arrive straightly to the point. At the beginning, I am very democratic here. They do what they want, but then no discussion. This is my point. But I have some new collection of the Moroccan what to do with point A to point B. So anyway.
Thank you, Valerio, for exploring the impossible. Thank you, and thank you all, and have a good day working with a lot of possibility. Choose yours. Thank you.